Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today we're taking a look at Dance of the Fireflies, a card-playing game that is put out by BackSpindle Games and Ninja Division. Now this is a set collection game where you're trying to collect different colored flowers into your flower beds. You have 3 flower beds in your garden, and you're trying to score the most points by having the most diverse color of flowers in each of your flower beds, and possibly scoring some harmony points along the way for having all day flowers in one flower bed, all night flowers in another, and so forth and so on. So your basic point is to try to get the most points, and you do that by collecting different sets of flowers in your flower beds. So it sounds like a pretty cool game, sounds like an interesting theme. So let's go ahead and take a look at it, and we'll come back with some final thoughts in just a few moments. So here I have set up for you a 4-player game of Dance of the Fireflies. Now, Dance of the Fireflies is a set collection game where you are trying to score the most points based upon different things. You're going to be having 3 flower beds in your garden, and you're trying to score points at the end of the game by having a certain number of flowers in each flower bed. So if you have 6 flowers in a flower bed, that's going to give you 12 points. If they all have them to be of different colors and they're all day flowers, you're going to score an extra 2 points. If they're all different colored flowers and they're all night flowers, then you're going to score an additional bonus 4 points for having 6 and having them all different. But you can have 5 flowers, 4 flowers, and score different numbers of points there throughout the course of the game. Now, the way you do that is by sending out your fireflies as bidding tokens on these different flowers that are in the circle up here. Everybody starts with 7 fireflies, one of which is a royal firefly, and you want to keep that one hidden because it basically can trump any number of other normal fireflies out there. But if a royal firefly is bidding against another royal firefly, they're going to actually cancel each other out. So you do want to make sure that you keep your royal fireflies hidden and secretively use them. Now on your turn, you have the ability to do one of 3 different actions. You can either bid for a card that is out here using your fireflies, or you can plant a flower from your hand into one of your 3 flower beds, or you can pass, which simply means you don't do anything, you just pass your turn to somebody else. Now, additionally, if you choose to bid on one of the flowers or plant a flower from your hand, you do have the possibility of getting a bonus bidding of 1 additional firefly out here if you discard one of the cards from your hand to the compost pile. Now, as far as bidding is concerned, that has to do with these colors, these flowers out here, and these are the bidding spots for each of the different flowers. Some of the spots have only a moon symbol, some have both a moon and a sun symbol, and then other places still only have a sun symbol. What that means is that when you bid, you're wanting to go from left to right on the card. So this is the first spot you can bid on, and then successfully over to towards the right. In order to bid on a card, if the space that's available has to match, one of the symbols in there has to match the side of the sundial that they are on. For example, to bid here, you can't do it right now because it's a sun symbol and it is currently on the night side of the sundial. However, this one over here, while it is on the sun part of the sundial or the day part, there is a sun and a moon here, so you would be able to bid on that one right there. Now, the other thing you can do on your turn is to play a card from your hand into one of your flower beds, which is basically a way for you to not have to wait to win one of these cards out here. You just take one of the cards that's in your hand and play it down into one of your flower beds. If you do that, however, you are going to lose some bidding power because you'll have to take one of your available fireflies and play it on top of that card and it stays there for the rest of the game, which diminishes your bidding power for the rest of the game, but maybe this is a card that you really wanted to get out on the table at that particular moment in time. Okay, so on my first turn, I'm going to go ahead and say that, you know what? I'm not really worried about bidding on any of these cards out here, but I do want to play some of this one. So I'm going to play this card down into my flower bed here, one of my flower beds in my garden. Now, every time you play a card into your flower bed, it has a special ability that you can carry out that special ability. For example, the orange ones here, you can play one additional flower of any color from your hand into any of my flower beds. So, for example, I get to trigger this special ability. I'm going to go ahead and put this blue one out here. And if I play it in the same flower bed as the orange one, then I'll also be able to trigger that special ability as well. But had I played it in a different flower bed, I would not be able to trigger its special ability. In this particular case, the blue card, the blue flowers, allow me to choose one of the cards from the compost pile and add it to my hand. So I'm going to choose this red one here and add it to my hand and then put these back in the compost pile. At this point, since I chose the second option of planting a flower from my hand, I would be able to, if I had some fireflies already out here, I could discard a card from my hand to place a firefly adjacent to someplace that I already had a firefly as a bidding token. But since I don't have any out here, I can't do that this turn, and my turn is over. At this point, I would draw up to my hand maximum of 3 cards. So I would draw 1 card and add it to my hand, and that would be the end of my turn. Once everybody else has been able to take their turns, either choosing to bid or play cards from their hands, then it comes to the harvesting phase, where the person who is the gardening apprentice is going to shift the sundial to where it matches 2 different cards in the sundial. Now, this is where the icons on the cards really matter here. This is a night flower. This is a day flower. This is the day side of the sundial pointing this way. This is the night side of the sundial pointing this way. At this point, if this symbol matches that symbol, this card will be harvested. Same thing on this side, where if the symbols match, then that card will be harvested. But in this particular case, because neither or none of the symbols match, neither of those cards are going to be harvested. The harvesting phase is over, and we go on to the next round with the first player, or the gardening apprentice token, moving to the next player. At the end of the second round of turns, the new gardener's apprentice will shift the sundial to 1 flower, and this matches this, so this card is definitely going to be leaving the circle and being harvested. This does not match this one, so this one will be staying put. And so now that we have a card that's being harvested, we take and we flip the tokens over. So whenever you have a royal firefly out there, you have to first see if it's there alone. If it's there alone, it automatically wins, no matter if it's outnumbered by another player's color. But if there are 2 royal fireflies out there, they will negate each other, and whoever has the majority left wins that card. So in this particular case, white will be able to take this card and add it to any one of its flower beds. When you place a yellow flower, the special ability of the yellow flower is that it mimics any of the red, white, orange, or blue cards that are in the same flower bed. So since there's a red flower here, then it mimics that ability. The red's special ability is that you draw 2 cards and add them to your hand, and then you can discard any 1 card from your hand. So at this point, I think what I'm probably going to do is just discard this white one into the compost heap, and now I have 4 cards in my hand. This, by the way, is one of the only ways that you can actually go over your maximum limit of 3. Now, once these are placed here, they are flipped over and placed face down on the sundial, because you will have to go around without them. The person, any normal fireflies go back to their owner, And then, starting with the sun side, if the moon and the sun both had cards that were harvested, replenish that card. So this would go here, and then the Gardening Apprentice token would be moved to the next player, and another round begins. And this is generally how the game plays until the last card is drawn from the Potter's Shed and the greenhouse. At that point, the last round triggers. The last harvest phase, the sundial will make its complete round until there are no cards left in the flower circle. And then you simply add up all of the points that you're getting from all of your flower beds, and whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. So that is Dance of the Fireflies. Now, I do want to say right off the bat that I probably left out a lot of minutia. There's a lot of circumstantial type of rules in the rule book that only come up in certain times throughout the course of the game, and some games may not even have that particular situation arise. So those situational rules I kind of stayed away from for the most part, and I just wanted to focus upon the core mechanisms that are employed within the game. Having said that, there is a smorgasbord of card game mechanisms that are in this game, and that is a cool thing in and of itself. So that's one of the things that I liked a lot about the game. There's a lot of different mechanisms going on. There's a lot of different things that you can do, and all of the different effects that can be chained together. That was a very cool thing. So we'll start with that being my first pro. I really enjoyed the different kinds of ways that you could chain the different flowers' special abilities together on the course of your turn. And that's really where I think the crux of the game lies. If you're going to do well, you need to do well at chaining those different special abilities together that each of the different flowers afford you. If you don't do very well at that, you're probably going to have a more difficult time doing well in the game. So there is a very cranial aspect that's there that is basically, or maybe cerebral would be the better term to say, that basically you're going to have to put a lot of thought in playing those flowers into your flower beds at the right time and in the right order so that you have a better effect from the chain of those special powers firing off. And the second pro of the game is the look. I mean, if you look at this box cover, it is amazing. The artwork is astounding. It is very nice. It has a very broad appeal to it, I guess you could say, because it's very inviting. I also like the fact that on the back they have a very clear representation of all the different components that are there, and it gives you a feel for how the game looks during play. So kudos to that. I liked all of the different artistic depictions of the different flowers that are out there, and they chose, I think, a good graphic design in order to implement those different icons that needed to be on the different cards. The night flowers had a darker background to them. The day flowers had a lighter background to them, but that was also accompanied by the icons in the upper right-hand corner and all that good stuff. So that, I think, was very good, and I liked the thematic choice of the bidding, which leads me another way into my next pro, and that is that I liked the bidding mechanism of the game. But it might have been slightly convoluted because not only were you making sure that you had enough on those cards that you needed, but at the same time, you also had to make sure and keep track of which side of the sundial is that flower on, and am I able to bid on that flower based upon the symbol that's there. So it was slightly convoluted, but for the most part, this is a pro for me because I did enjoy the tight nature. Most of the cards, except for those wilds the orchids and the weed cards, have only 3 spots on them. So it's a very tight bidding mechanism. And I like that because sometimes the more free-flowing bidding just conflagrates, I guess you could say, the amount of bids that are made, and you can kind of spiral out of control sometimes. Now, having said all those, I think those are strong pros, and I think those are things that will work in the game's benefit in the future. Now, some of the cons of the game, and I only have a couple of them because I overall did like the game. However, I think first of all, the theme of the game and the look of the game are misleading. This looks like a very light card game, something that can be played very simply, maybe even a gateway experience. And unfortunately, I don't think that's true. I think there's too many mechanisms trying to converge on the same place at the same time for this to be easily understood by people who are coming into the hobby. For example, if I saw this game, my first initial impression would be, hey, I've got this friend who is a gardener, and they don't play games very often, but I know they love gardening, so this is a game that I could probably introduce to them in a gateway experience. Unfortunately, I don't know that you can do that, or at least I wouldn't assume on the offset that this is going to be easily understood by everybody without having some initial gaming experience under their belt. I think if you have a gamer that also is a gardener, this is like a no-brainer because I think that they will enjoy the theme a lot. I don't know how thematic it is because I don't gardening. Yeah, that's not right. But anyway, you get what I mean. I'm not a gardener, so I don't know if it's very thematic. I would assume that it probably isn't. There's much more to gardening than this game would let on. But I think if somebody's a gardener and they're a gamer, this is a no-brainer purchase for them. So the con here is that it looks like a gateway game. It seems like it would be a gateway game, but once you get into explaining the rules, I think you'll quickly find that it is not at all a gateway game. And my second con is quite simply that, and we go back to that statement that I made, it's a smorgasbord of different kinds of card game mechanisms kind of thrown in together. And it might be just a little bit too much. It seems like they wanted to throw everything in the kitchen sink into this game. And I think you probably could have, trimmed the fat a little bit. And this is, again, kind of a light con, but at the same time, I think it needs to be said because I think there's just too much going on for what it is. And that's unfortunate because the game looks great. It actually is pretty fun as you get through it, but you find yourself at times getting paralyzed, analyzing the different things that you can do when you really probably shouldn't have to do that with this being the card game. So with all that being said, I don't want to seem overcritical because I think this is a decent game. I enjoyed it. I like certain parts of it, but overall, it just left me this feeling of, wow, that was just too much stuff crammed into one. It's like when you get a cheeseburger and it's like a fully loaded cheeseburger and you have trouble taking a bite out of it because it's just too big. That's what this game feels like. It's not that I didn't enjoy the cheeseburger, don't get me wrong, but it was just too much to take a bite of. I think over time, as we become more used to all of the different mechanisms, how everything works together, I think that'll settle down a little bit and it'll become a little bit more second nature. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. I did enjoy it. I think it is definitely an above average game, and I think there is definitely a niche market for this in the hobby. So 6 out of 10. I did enjoy it, but I think it's going to be a little bit more niche than the producers wanted it to be. So that's it from me. A 6 out of 10 for Dance of the Fireflies. We'll see you guys on the flip side.